Welcome back to my channel, everybody. I'm Movie Micah. Today we are ranking all 7 PG-13 DCEU films, and I've also brought a special guest, Gavin the Geek, to help me rank these movies. If you're wondering, yes, this ranking is only including the PG-13 films. It will not include Birds of Prey. Neither of us have seen it yet. Without further ado, Gavin, introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Gavin, and thank you, Micah, for having me on here. So if you're a fan of my old channel, you're probably wondering, Gavin, what happened? Why don't you post on there anymore? Well, I don't have access to it anymore, so I made a new one. Just go check that one out. Just type in Gavin the Geek, and you'll find it.
The link to his channel will be in the description down below if you want to check it out.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this ranking, and thank you for having me on, Micah.
Without further ado, let's head into the ranking.
Number 7 for me is Justice League. I refuse to call this movie by the actual term or whatever it's called, but I hate this movie with all my heart. It just doesn't do anything really well, just from the pacing to the script, just the whole CGI. Superman's mustache, everyone bashes it. I'm gonna bash it too. It looks ugly, it looks hideous, and I just don't like it. It looks horrendous. I just despise it. And just the acting is very poorly done. I don't know, even Ben Affleck as Batman just fell off. Like, he wasn't even that good, which is shocking because he's great. Steppenwolf is an embarrassing villain, and I just despise this film with all my heart. It's probably my least favorite CBM, even though it isn't the worst.
And yeah, my number 7 in last place is also Justice League. This is probably my least favorite film of all time. I think it is disgusting in every way. It looks terrible. The whole movie is just black, white, and red. It all looks really bad, and there's all these characters that should be so great, and they're awesome in the comics. The jokes that they make about them are unacceptable. It is terrible what they did to these amazing characters in this awful movie. Nothing pays off, nothing works, the acting is all terrible. This movie played it really safe. There's not really any risks they took. They tried to get as many people to watch it as they could, and it turned out terrible.
Number 6 for me is Batman v Superman. This is one that I actually used to really like, and I thought it was a decent movie. But the more I think about it, the more I process, I'm talking about the theatrical cut. If anyone that gets mad at me saying see the Ultimate Edition, I'll try that eventually. But when I'm talking about the theatrical cut, and honestly, it was really poorly made. The script is extremely messy. The action's great, but it's just sometimes it doesn't really make sense. Jesse Eisenberg was embarrassing as Lex Luthor, in my opinion. I do not think he's Lex Luthor at all. It's a weird Jesse Eisenberg performance in my eyes. And Doomsday was in the movie. That was also jammed in. It's just trying to be a setup for the Justice League. It's trying to be Batman v Superman. And apparently Lex Luthor has this whole plan to kill Superman. It's just, there's all these different plot lines that's trying to jam in here. It doesn't feel well done. It doesn't feel like it's trying to execute something really well. It just feels like a bad version of Captain America Civil War. Ben Affleck's Batman, the dialogue between Alfred and Batman is really great. Henry Cavill, of course, is really good as Superman. There's some great action sequences. But when you look at the film as a whole and just how messy it is and how many plot lines they jammed in, it really is poorly done.
Number 6 for me is Suicide Squad. This is another terrible movie. Alright, so they have this great cast, and they have all these characters that have potential. They could be good. Every character in this movie is just, you're supposed to hate them, or they try to give you something to like about them, but it doesn't work. Also, this movie has an extremely pathetic villain, an Enchantress. Not quite as bad as Steppenwolf, but still really bad. And everything else about this movie is just generic. There's nothing that it adds to the genre. I guess it's sort of like wacky fun, but it's not enjoyable. It got very boring, and when it was about halfway through, I thought it was about to end, and that's not a good thing. I cannot believe how bad Jared Leto's Joker was in this film. Nothing really worked for me.
Number 5 is Suicide Squad. Now, a lot of people have put this one lower than this one, but I felt like even though the script wasn't the best, they had more of a consistent script of what was supposed to happen during the story. Even though it's a bland story, it's still more consistent with the story structure and how the script, flows. And I do think the cast is amazing, and I liked some of the characters. I think Margot Robbie is Harley Quinn. Her character's great. I absolutely love that. And Deadshot, Will Smith as Deadshot was amazing, and it's decent action. but it definitely does not very well. It's not really the flaws I have with Batman v Superman, where it's a complete mess. It's scoring from the fact that it just feels too rushed. They didn't put enough in there, in my opinion, because we don't get enough to spend time with our characters. Guardians, it feels like a ripoff of Guardians of the Galaxy. It just feels like a knockoff, and that's kind of ironic because James Gunn's gonna be directing a Suicide Squad movie, but it's just not really well done when you look at the script. Even though it's more consistent, the plot is bland. You have the Enchantress, who's just an embarrassing villain. Just the whole dance thing she does, what was that? And Joker, I mean, I guess he was alright, but the makeup design, it's just bad. I don't hate it as much as other people. I don't think it deserves the most the hate it gets. It's clearly not David Ayer's movie, but it just was poorly done.
Number 5 is Aquaman, and yeah, these are 3 movies in the DCEU that I pretty much hate. It tried to be just stupid fun action, but the thing is, it wasn't fun. I did not have an enjoyable time. The action, yeah, I guess it was really cool in the beginning. There were some good shots, but by the end, it just got so boring. Even, like, there's an explosion every 5 seconds. Still, it's so boring. It looks really disgusting underwater. I don't think Aquaman in film will ever work. This was different than the comics, but it's still not good. It's not good, and I don't think the visuals are that great. And there's nothing really to think about after this movie's done. It's basically just a worse version of Black Panther. And the movie came out the same year as Black Panther, and it's just a worse version of it.
Number 4 is Aquaman. This is a movie that I didn't really like that much the first time I watched it. Even when I rewatched it, I still didn't really like it. But the more I process it, I'm like, yeah, this is just a fun movie. Why didn't I accept that? It's definitely not a masterpiece at all. It's extremely flawed. But just look at it as a fun popcorn movie. That's what Aquaman is. It's a popcorn movie. It's nothing more than that. Don't try to look at it as more. That's how I see with the other films, such as like The Avengers, Back to the Future, and just movies, The Goonies, movies like that. I just look at Ghostbusters, of course. I just look at them as fun popcorn movies, and I think that's what people should just look at this movie. It's entertaining, it's fun, even though it is a weaker version of Black Panther and they did kind of rip off the script. It's just a decent enough fun time, and that's how I see it.
My number 4 is Wonder Woman. I know a lot of people really love this movie, and it's probably your favorite DCEU film, and it really disappointed me. There was a ton of potential for character development for the character of Wonder Woman, but by the end, she's just the same stupid person that she was in the beginning. It was really frustrating. They set it up so well, and they seemed to miss what they set up, and they didn't even know how to conclude it, but they could have done it so easily, and that's why this movie is so frustrating for me. I do not enjoy it. I thought they were going to develop her. She needs to realize she's wrong. World War I was not caused by Ares. And then they just say, oh yeah, Ares is here. Wait, why is Ares in the movie? Why is he actually in it? I don't understand. This doesn't make any sense. This is stupid. For me, this movie was really frustrating. And it's just like an average middle ground comic book movie, in my opinion. They could have done so much more with this character, but then they just missed the opportunity.
3, Shazam. I really think this is a really good film, even though there are some massive tone shifts. Besides that, I don't really have many other issues. I think the villain's pretty solid. I think that it's a really fun time. I think the whole cast is very likable. Zachary Levi is what makes this film so good. Zachary Levi gives this outstanding, great performance as playing this kid in a man's body. It's just perfect. No one would do better, honestly. No one. No, there's no one. And he's probably the greatest superhero out of every movie in the DCEU, because he's just this kid that likes doing stuff. What would a kid do with superpowers? It explores that idea very well, in my opinion. And I just really enjoyed this film. It was really good. It was a really fun time. It's really just a B+, really good movie, honestly. I really like the villain. It's just a fun time.
Number 3 is Man of Steel. I have grown to like this movie a little bit. I think it's pretty good. It has some amazing themes and ideas. It shows us the struggle of how Clark Kent was forced to hide his powers growing up, and that stuff is really interesting. Honestly, the flashback scenes, I feel like, are some of the better scenes in the film, rather than the stuff in the present with Zod. Didn't enjoy that as much, and the visuals are really disgusting, and the action is not very good, but the ideas and the themes, that's what I really like about Man of Steel. That's what I've grown to appreciate, and I see the ideas that Zack Snyder wanted to put into this film, I don't know if the execution was on point for me. I do think it's a pretty good movie. It has great ideas.
Number 2 is Man of Steel. I haven't seen this movie in a while though, I just didn't have time to rewatch it. But I really like this film. I think the origin story is really well done. It's in the sort of Nolan non-linear storytelling that you expect, and I think it's really good and really well done. Henry Cavill gives a great performance, just the whole origin story and everything. It's just such a dark take on Superman, and as someone who, honestly, the thing is, there's a lot of Superman purists, if you would say. Let's say it's a horrible movie, but I'm someone who grew up with Superman. I grew up with the old Superman, and I still absolutely love this film, even though I've watched the old ones, I've watched the old cartoon. I have nostalgia for the old Superman, but I really like this new Superman in its own aspect, and I think people just need to appreciate it in that sort of way.
My runner-up is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and I know people like Gavin have it really low on their list, but for me, I think this is definitely one of the best DCEU films. It really surprised me the first time, and that was with the theatrical cut. And honestly, I don't think the Ultimate Edition is much better. If I included the Ultimate Edition on this list, it'd be in the same place. On rewatch, I definitely do think, I think Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was pretty bad. Did not enjoy that part, but I think there are some interesting things to think about here. It seemed to tackle the exact same things that Captain America Civil War did the exact same year, and it's like going back to Aquaman. Aquaman felt like it was doing the exact same things as Black Panther, and this one feels like it's doing the exact same things as Captain America Civil War. However, I do really enjoy this movie. Sure, there are plenty of issues, but I like it a lot more than most of the DCEU.
Coming in at number 1 is Wonder Woman. This is overall just a really amazing, well done. It's my favorite one in the DCU, obviously. It's one of my favorite DC movies, and it's one of my favorite CBMs. I think that just Chris Pine and Gal Gadot had this really nice chemistry with one another. But I'm pretty sure you probably said that you think she has no character development at this certain point, and I guess I can kind of see where you're coming from with that, but it's just such a great movie. I think the action is really well done. Like I said before, Chris Pine and Gal Gadot, they have great chemistry, and they're great. They do a great job with their acting performances. There were definitely some wasted villains. It's not perfect. It is flawed for sure, but I do absolutely love it, and I think it's a great, amazing movie, and it's my favorite of the DCEU.
And my number 1 is easily Shazam. This definitely does feel like an MCU film, and I feel like that's why I love it. I love the MCU, and this is the one that actually balanced really good character stuff with a fun time. It's really enjoyable. It's set in Philadelphia, but they actually made you like these characters. Shazam, I think, is definitely the best hero in the DCEU. They finally gave a character an arc. He finally learned something, unlike every other hero in the DCEU. They don't learn anything throughout their films, but I feel like Shazam finally did that, made you really like all these characters. I will say, yeah, there are some tone shifts, but I wasn't bothered by them as much as some people are. I just think Shazam is finally when the DCEU has stepped up their game, gave us a really fun adventure. This is finally a movie in this universe that I would want to rewatch very often. So thank you, Gavin, for coming on my channel. It was a fun time ranking the DCEU with you, of course, not including Birds of Prey.
Thank you for having me on, Micah. I really appreciate that you let me come on here, and just, yeah, this was a ton of fun.
Again, you can find the link to his channel in the description down below if you'd like to check it out. You can also subscribe to both of our channels right over here, and you can check out some of my previous videos over here. Thanks for watching. This is Movie Micah and Gavin the Geek signing off, and we'll see you next time.